Hey there everyone, this is Samuel Johnson and welcome back to the Xiaolin Perspectives, and today we're going to be discussing episode 46 of Xiaolin Showdown, Master Monk Guan Returns, and the beginning of this episode involves the Xiaolin monks, as you do, finding a new Shengong Wu, in this case a pair of sandals called the Fancy Feet, which, well, when worn by someone, allows them to move at super speed. As such, the Xiaolin monks of course go to try and get said Shengong Wu, only to find that they've been intercepted by Hannibal Roy Bean, who not only got to the Fancy Feet first, but to ensure the Xiaolin monks can't take the Fancy Feet from them, he unleashes the treasure of the blind swordsman on them, who in turn summons a horde of bats to both surround the Xiaolin monks and then cover them with guano. Put simply, it's a shitty situation. I regret that very much. Point is, Xiaolin monks kind of got their asses beat and Hannibal got away with the Fancy Feet. Don't know how he'd use them considering how he's a bean, but whatever. Either way, when the Xiaolin monks return to the temple and wash themselves off, well, Master Feng tells them that he doesn't really know what they can do at this point. After all, Hannibal has the treasure of the blind swordsman. And like I said, the treasure is basically like a genie's lamp. As long as he has that, Hannibal can do whatever he wants, and he can easily wipe the floor with the Xiaolin monks. As such, he believes that in order for them to properly face Hannibal in this state, they'll need to get extra training from a different teacher. As such, he's going to be sending all of the Xiaolin monks, plus Dojo, to another temple where they'll get this advanced teaching. Something Dojo is a little against, to put it lightly, but the Xiaolin monks and him do make their way to this other temple located in the mountains, and sure enough, upon arriving, they find a bunch of nameless elder monks. I'm guessing this is where they went when they're not on screen, and they find out who their new teacher is, Master Monk Guan, as this is his academy. And of course, everyone's happy to see him, he's happy to see them, and to welcome them all to this place, he has the elder monks take their junk to their rooms, and he's prepared a fancy feast for them, which once that's over, they'll all be able to take a nap and rest, and their training will begin the next day, with Master Monk Guan telling the monks that the strongest among them will be the one to face Hannibal, with Omi, of course, assuming that it'll be him. As such, everyone eats heartily and goes to bed, only to be very rudely awoken the next day by Master Monk Guan, who basically transformed overnight into a drill sergeant. And let's put it nicely, he puts the Xiaolin monks through hell. Has them do a 5-mile lap, has them go through a dangerous obstacle course, has them do a bunch of fighting, and he even makes it illegal to ask questions, something Raimundo sees the consequences of, as he constantly has to do push-ups every time he even so much as asks a simple just whatever question. Point is, it's just hard. However, halfway through the training, Raimundo decides that his best option is just to take a nap in the middle of everything, even though he and the other monks are told that they weren't allowed to take a break. As such, Master Monk Guan finds him, and the thing is, Raimundo has little by little been kind of getting on Master Monk Guan's bad side, and so after he sees Raimundo slacking off, he decides to give him an insulting nickname. In this case, he decides to call him Bobo, something that does kind of piss Raimundo off, though Omi does kind of pick up on using that name as well, which, fuck you, Omi. Either way, Raimundo is kind of been Bonedville, and Master Monk Guan threatens to throw him out if he doesn't fall in line, but Raimundo says that, no, you can't throw me out, I have nowhere to go, and blah, blah, blah. It's kind of cheesy and dumb, though it might be intentional. Point is, Raimundo begs not to be thrown out, and as kind of recompense for this, Raimundo is asked to chop onions in a corner. As such, the other Xiaolin monks end up feeling sorry for him, and they go to Master Monk Guan and ask if he can, lay off Raimundo, because after all, he's not doing anything intentionally wrong. Maybe he could cut him some slack or something. And as such, Master Monk Guan does seem to heed what they're saying, as he and the other monks go up to Raimundo, and Master Monk Guan says that maybe the reason why Raimundo is failing is because not everyone, all the Xiaolin monks aren't up to snuff, and that if Raimundo truly wants to be better, then he needs to be a part of the group again. In another way, he's basically going to make it be that if Raimundo fucks up, everyone suffers the consequences, and that if Raimundo wants to get up to snuff and become a better student, he needs to get a proper training. In this case, he has him be trained by his best student, Omi, which of course, Omi does not exactly make the situation better by talking about when Master Monk Guan saying, you will learn to eat, sleep, and whatever, the way Omi does, and Omi says that he's actually already good at those things, which does piss Raimundo off, but kind of going off the whole everyone's going to be sharing consequences thing, Raimundo ends up asking a question, hold on one second. Sorry, blanked on the word. He ends up asking a rhetorical question, and in turn, all the other monks are forced to do push-ups as well. As such, Raimundo finally says, fuck this, and he tells Master Monk Guan to piss off, and he quits. Which, with the other monks kind of shocked to see this, but Master Monk Guan just lets this happen. As such, Raimundo leaves the temple, but who should he run into after all this but Hannibal Roy Bean, who has been spying on the Xiaolin monks the entire time they've been training. And, well, Hannibal sees Raimundo and the crap that he went through, and he feels sorry for him. He thinks he deserves better, that he needs a friend that will have his back, and so Hannibal offers Raimundo the chance to join him. At first, Raimundo seems a little hesitant, though seemingly open to it. As Hannibal, who ends up ducking himself out in his honestly badass armor, which is kind of offset by his voice. Again, it's actually kind of funnier with his voice. He tells Raimundo that maybe they can help each other out, and so Raimundo decides to kind of throw his lot in with Hannibal. And we see the fruits of that team up as that night Raimundo sneaks back into Master Monk Guan's temple, and it turns out apparently some of the Shengong Wu that the good guys had were brought along with them. And so he comes in and grabs the Shengong Wu and throws them in a sack. But it turns out Master Monk Guan's temple has better security than the Xiaolin temple, because once he takes it, an alarm goes off all across the temple. And as such, as Raimundo runs out to the surface, he ends up running into Master Monk Guan and the other Xiaolin students. As such, the other monks are wondering, well, hell, what the heck, Raimundo? Why are you doing this? Only to see Hannibal there and for him to confirm that Raimundo's on his side. Much to the other Xiaolin monks' horror, because, oh my gosh, Raimundo turned to the dark side again? I don't know. But either way, Raimundo starts fighting them, and he actually starts whooping their ass as something fierce, though Master Monk Guan is able to easily deal with Raimundo. But in the midst of everything, Raimundo ends up dropping the sack of Shengong Wu, and when he tries going to retrieve it, Omi ends up intercepting it by using his Shimo staff, and so he and Raimundo technically touch the sack of Shengong Wu at the same time, and so Omi challenges Raimundo to a Xiaolin showdown, with Raimundo wagering the fancy feat, because I'm guessing that Hannibal gave them to him since they're both now on the same side, and Omi ends up wagering the gills of Hamachi, since that's kind of the only Shengong Wu they have at the moment. And the challenge? Basically just Xiaolin sparring. The last man standing will be the winner. As such, parameters met, Xiaolin showdown time, and again, it's really damn cool. The temple ends up growing, and the entire area gets filled up with all these giant platforms that are just floating above a lake, are floating on a lake. It's really damn cool. But either way, with the yell of Gong Yi Tong Pai, Raimundo and Omi start sparring, and unfortunately, with the fancy feet on it. Getting tongue-tied. With the fancy feet on his side, Raimundo is able to easily whoop Omi's ass. And while Omi does get a bit of encouragement from Master Monk Guan, which in turn allows him to use his Wudai powers to cause the water to rise and allows him to use the gills of Hamachi in a much more friendly environment, well, unfortunately, even with that extra boost, Raimundo is able to use his Wudai abilities and sends Omi flying and landing away on a ship. Or more specifically, Dojo, who shapeshifted into a ship. And since he has the gills of Hamachi, he starts dry drowning right there. However, as such, Hannibal, the Xiaolin monks, and Master Monk Guan are watching all this, and Hannibal is just kind of marveling at how well Raimundo is doing. He's whooping Omi's ass. As such, Master Monk Guan kind of takes advantage of Hannibal's arrogance and says that if he's so sure he'll win, maybe they can up the ante a little. As such, they call a timeout, which they say they can do now, as apparently there's a rule in the Xiaolin Showdown rulebook that says that you can call a timeout if one or more opponents calls for a Shen Yi Bu all-in, which that sounds like some bullshit, but then again, even Dojo admits at this point that the rules of the Xiaolin Showdown just kind of seem to change with the tide, which kind of like that they at least acknowledge it. We've seen that the rules of the Xiaolin Showdown kind of are inconsistent. You can have the rules be followed in one showdown in one episode, and then have those rules be completely ignored in the next episode. It's just kind of dumb, but either way, Shen Yi Bu all in. In this case, Master Monk Guan says that if Raimundo wins, then they can get the entire grab bag of the Shengong Wu, just every bit of Shengong Wu. But likewise, if Omi wins, then the good guys not only get all of Hannibal's Shengong Wu, but they also get the treasure of the blind swordsman. As such, Hannibal, more than certain that Raimundo's going to win, accepts this, and so the Xiaolin Showdown is timed in. And unfortunately, Omi's not doing so well. Raimundo really handed it to Omi during the battle, and it looks like and even though Omi's thrown back in, it looks like all it would take is a single attack from Raimundo, and Omi would be down for the count. As such, Hannibal entices Raimundo, says, "Go on, make it sting," and Raimundo promises him that he will definitely make it sting. And so, as he goes up to Omi, Omi tries to get into a fighting stance, tries throwing a fist, and then Raimundo goes, "Oh no! Ah!" And then he falls over. Yeah, he threw the match. And so, by technicality, Omi wins the showdown and wins all the Shen Gong Wu plus the treasure of the blind swordsman. Something that pisses Hannibal off something fierce, as once everything returns to normal, he's just yelling about how he got cheated and so forth. But no, Dojo says this is all completely legal. Raimundo threw the match, so Omi wins. As such, Hannibal, very much pissed off, swears vengeance on all the Xiaolin warriors, that they haven't heard the last of him, but he especially swears revenge on Raimundo before he gets back on the Ying bird and flies away. But, yeah, turns out Raimundo wasn't a traitor. In reality, it turns out that Master Monk Guan went to Raimundo, possibly on the first night, and the reason why he was being so hard on Raimundo? He kind of wanted Hannibal to go to him. Basically, this whole showdown was Master Monk Guan's plan. He needed someone in the group to get close to Hannibal so that he'd be trusted to, use not only his Shen Gong Wu, but to bring out the treasure of the blind swordsman. And it was all to get into this one particular situation where Hannibal would lose the treasure. And while Omi is saddened that he wasn't the one picked to duke it out with Hannibal, well, Master Monk Guan says that while Omi may be very skilled, he needed someone that was dark, rebellious, and so forth. And while Raimundo's a little offended to hear himself described like that, well, he was happy to at least do his part. So, yeah, good guys won. They got the treasure of the blind swordsman away from the bad guy, and Raimundo never left the good guys in the first place, so good on him. As such, the episode ends as the Xiaolin monks are patching Omi up, and Raimundo's apologizing for how hard he went in on the Xiaolin showdown, but he had to make it look authentic, and Omi does accept the apology, though he does tell Raimundo that he hopes one day to kind of even the score, so to speak. However, Master Monk Guan is not yet done with the group. As a show of thanks for Raimundo's help in the plan, he gives him the Staff of Guan. Much to everyone's confusion, especially since the last time we saw Master Monk Guan, he gave that staff to Omi. And so Omi wonders why the hell he has another one, and Master Monk Guan admits he has spares. And I mean like a lot of spares. He's got like a warehouse full of these things, and apparently he can just hand them out like candy. Yeah, Omi is kind of pissed, and I don't blame him. I'm a little pissed too, but we'll get to that. But either way, that was Master Monk Guan Returns. My thoughts on this episode? It was alright. It was pretty good. I admit, knowing in advance that Master Monk Guan went to Raimundo and set this whole plan up from the beginning, it actually kind of makes the episode a little bit better, in my opinion, because, well, like I said, going into the episode, that's what I knew. I knew from the beginning of the episode that Master Monk Guan set up this whole plan with Raimundo. And as a result, a lot of the things that happen in the episode, honestly, are a lot funnier knowing that it was all just one big gambit to trick Hannibal into handing over the treasure of the blind swordsman. Like how Raimundo immediately just blew off the training, even though he seemed to be taking it seriously before, or how Master Monk Guan seemed to be harder on Raimundo early on, or how things kept getting turned to his side, or how Raimundo just turned to the dark side so quickly. Which, yeah, all of these things are a little out of character for all of them. Not so much so that you think it was wrong, but at the same time, it's enough to make you go, this is kind of weird. Like, in the case of Master Monk Guan, the last time we saw him, he was actually a very serene and gentle teacher. He seemed nice and friendly, which admittedly he used to his advantage when he tricked Dojo into following him to see Chase Young, but at the same time, he was a nice guy, and while he did seem to have his regrets, at the end of the day, he was a good and humble soul who was willing to admit when he was wrong. And then to see him in this episode as a teacher and going full drill sergeant, it's a big change, and you're like, and the thing is, it's not like we know what, we don't know enough about Master Monk Guan to question this change, but it is enough of a character difference that it does kind of surprise you. On top of that, while Raimundo typically is considered the slacker, a lot of his attitude throughout the episode does not seem like something you would see of Raimundo. If he got, like I said, Master Monk Guan just woke the Xiaolin monks up at an unruly hour of the day, and while the other Xiaolin monks were alert and freaking out, Raimundo just seemed to pull his cover over his head and said 5 more minutes, which, yeah, again, Raimundo's the slacker, but he does take his training as a Xiaolin monk very seriously. And so to see him be even lazier in this episode, it does make you wonder what the heck's going on with Raimundo. I know he's lazy, but I didn't think he was this lazy. And hell, seeing him beg Master Monk Guan not to throw him out, yeah, that ain't Raimundo. Raimundo's too proud to do something like that, even if he was fucking up. At the most, he would begrudgingly say, yes, sir, and then just try and improve as the episode went along. But to see him actually begging Master Monk Guan not to throw him out, yeah, it's clear. Yeah, it's a little strange. It's a little strange, and by the end, when he does tell Master Monk Guan to shove it, again, it's a weird little contrast, if that makes any sense. But again, knowing in advance that all of this was just a setup that Master Monk Guan and Raimundo agreed upon earlier, it allows for all this out-of-character behavior to, well, make sense. After all, the end goal was to get one of the Xiaolin monks on Hannibal's side. And so if Hannibal wanted to take a Xiaolin monk in, he would need to believe that there was some strife that he could take advantage of. And what better strife than to have one of the Xiaolin monks be angry at their teacher. And I think it played out well. I think it played out well. Again, it does kind of help showcase more of Hannibal's incompetence as a villain, that he didn't really see through the ruse. He just kind of went with it blindly and then fell for the trap, hook, line, and sinker. So kind of like that. And on top, so I'll at least give him that. And quite frankly, again, knowing in advance about the plan makes all these scenes kind of funnier. Like when Raimundo does beg to stay, or when Hannibal appears to him and then he's like, I have nothing to say to you, but what do you have to offer? Or I don't know. It's just kind of, I do find that kind of amusing. And then when it all kind of clicked in the end, when Master Monk Guan did a Shen Yi Bu all in order to trick Hannibal into handing over the treasure of the blind swordsman. Even I looked at that and thought, oh, this is what it's been building up to. I kind of love that. And I think so. I admittedly liked that. And I will give credit where it's due. I think that while Raimundo was definitely trying to put on enough of an act to try and convince Hannibal that he was on his side, I wouldn't be surprised if him beating the shit out of Omi for all of the crap that Omi was doing in the episode wasn't at least a wee bit cathartic. Just a wee bit. I would buy it. So I do like that. Again, I like the twist. So yeah, the twist at the end, I do think makes the episode worth it. Without the twist, it does feel like a lot of weird, out-of-character behavior for both Raimundo and Master Monk Guan, as it makes Master Monk Guan kind of come across like a jerk, and Raimundo's personality seems to just change on a snap. But again, knowing in advance that it was all a setup does kind of help kind of ease you into everything, and does make for a much more enjoyable experience. Although, unfortunately, I would argue that the ending with Master Monk Guan giving Raimundo another copy of the staff and revealing that he has a ton in there, that's stupid. That is just beyond stupid. And it doesn't ruin this episode, believe it or not. No. It kind of ruins Master Monk Guan's first episode, as the thing is, that episode was all about Master Monk Guan overcoming his own weakness. You know, him heavily relying on his weapon to the point where he was desperate to get it back, to the point where he betrayed the Xiaolin monks, only for by the end of the episode he realized, maybe I don't need this thing. Him fighting well without it, and then eventually handing it over to Omi because Omi helped him come to that character realization. I don't know. It feels like that lessons the lesson of that episode by virtue of showcasing, oh, actually he had a bunch of these staffs. Okay, one. Why then did he want to get that one particular staff away from Chase Young? Why was he so desperate to get it back? Was it like, did his mom give it to him and it had sentimental value? Did he write a phone number on it and he needed to remember it? Did Chase Young just go, neener, I got one of your staffs, and Master Monk Guan just took that shit personally? I don't know. I don't understand it. On top of that, why did he feel like shit for not having the staff? Dude, you lost one staff. You got all these copies. Or did he make the copies afterward. Because if that's the case, why? You don't need it. He knows he can probably work with any weapon. I guess you could argue that he just figured, maybe it's nice to have copies of this so this thing doesn't happen again. But we don't know if these copies were made before or after the Chase Young incident. So for all we know, he just has a bunch of copies of the Staff of Guan just lying in his closet somewhere, and he just has them on standby for whenever he needs them. I guess the idea is he's decided that he doesn't fully need them, because I can't remember one point in this episode where he used the Staff of Guan. In fact, Omi used his copy of the staff at one point in the episode while they were training. So I guess he did learn his lesson. But again, he's still got a whole staff of these things, and he said that the one he gave Raimundo was one of his favorites. So why? I don't know. It's a funny little gag, I guess. But it does kind of feel like a middle finger to what the Master Monk Guan episode was all about. And I kind of feel Omi's rage by the end of that episode. You thought you were special, Omi? Well, guess what? No, you weren't. You were just another student. That's a nice bit of screw you for Omi. Nice bit of screw you. I don't know. Either way, though, if I can give it, again, I think the episode overall is just fine. It's enjoyable enough. Again, knowing in advance about the whole plan to trick Hannibal does make all the antics with Master Monk Guan and Raimundo actually a little bit more entertaining. Again, on a first viewing, you'd probably think, wow, this is a lot of out-of-character behavior, I admit it can be a little cringeworthy, but again, knowing in advance that it's all an act does make it a little bit better. I'll even give credit where it's due. Master Monk Guan as a drill sergeant is kind of funny, as you see him just being unnecessarily harsh towards everybody, and I admit it is kind of funny, especially when he takes even the most minute of questions, even rhetorical ones, and uses them as an excuse to put someone through hell. So I kind of love that, I guess. And I guess I can give overall. So I do like that. Again, if I can what holds the episode back, in my opinion, is again the build up to that twist in the end. I guess it does kind of feel lesser, and it does feel a little rushed. And if it wasn't for that twist, you could probably see a lot of the cracks in the seams, and it just kind of makes Hannibal look a little dumb that he never questioned the fact that Raimundo turned to the dark side so easily. So I don't know. I don't know. I guess Hannibal overestimated his abilities, I guess. But on that same token, this episode doesn't really do a lot to ingratiate Hannibal as a big bad. Don't get me wrong. I enjoyed seeing Hannibal in this episode. He was still kind of hammy and silly and dumb. And ironically, seeing him in the giant suit of armor again, but still having that same southern drawl and friendly attitude, it is kind of funny. But that's all it is. It's funny. Unlike the first time we saw Hannibal and we heard that southern drawl with a big menacing screen with the red eyes, seeing it now coming out of the giant suit of armor, it's kind of hilarious, and it kind of lessens the cool factor of this giant demonic suit of armor when that's the voice coming out of it. I half expect Hannibal to be like, why don't y'all come over to my place so I can make you some chicken pot pie? I don't know. I don't know. No, it's kind of weird. Although, again, I'll give credit where it's due. The Xiaolin showdown was kick-ass. In fact, talking about the new Shen Gong Wu, the fancy feet are awesome. Super speed is definitely one of those superpowers that I'd love to have. So to see a Shen Gong Wu that actually does that is really cool. And seeing Raimundo utilize the fancy feet in the showdown was actually pretty nice. And again, something I also kind of like, too, that's very subtly shown, Raimundo's skills as a Xiaolin warrior are improving to the point where he's actually topping Omi, which I kind of like that. Like we said, like we've seen in the past, Raimundo is a very skilled warrior, and when he does apply himself to his training, he definitely can rise high above everybody else. It's just that he needs the proper motivation. And again, considering that Omi was not involved in this whole scheme, and yet he was piling on the Raimundo crap as well, I can understand that Raimundo might want to get a little bit of extra, anger out of his system by venting on Omi a little when they had their showdown. So I do kind of like that by the end that Raimundo does, while unintentionally, show that he's actually started surpassing Omi in terms of skill. And keep in mind, Raimundo was the slacker of the group. He's the guy that was the most dismissive of certain things in the beginning of the series. So to see him actually fight Omi one-on-one and actually do well, I actually kind of like that. And it does, and I think it is showcased that if it wasn't for because the thing is, Omi was not in on the scheme. Raimundo had to go all in order to try and convince Hannibal to do that whole, Shen Yi Bu all in. So the fact that Raimundo was able to duke it out with Omi and actually almost beat him. Again, it's a nice indicator of how far Raimundo has come in terms of his skill, and I actually kind of like that. It's a nice bit of growth for the character, and I can't help but dig it. So, yeah, on the whole, it's an enjoyable episode. It's an enjoyable episode. It's held back by the build up to the twist at the end, but the twist I think does make the build up a little bit more worth it. Xiaolin Showdown is kick-ass. Hannibal was fun in the episode, but sadly, unfortunately, he doesn't really feel like big bad yet. Again, he just kind of was more entertaining as a villain of the week kind of character, but still. And then it's nice seeing Master Monk Guan again, even though the ending kind of undermined his last episode. I like the plot. The twist was good. Overall, it's a fine episode. It's enjoyable. So, yeah, overall, enjoyed it. So, yeah, I think that's really all I have to say. I hope you enjoy my inane ramblings. I'm Samuel Johnson, and tune in next week as we look at an episode that I've honestly really been looking forward to seeing, and that might actually be spinning out of the events of this one. After all, Hannibal did say he would get revenge on Raimundo, and well, let's just say that when Hannibal wants revenge, well, he's not an idle threat. So, till then, I hope you have a good Friday and take care.